Welcome to Banyan Books, Branches of Wisdom, celebrating the joy of bright ideas and heartful lifelong learning. Branches of Wisdom is a series of intimate conversations with the world's most influential authors and visionaries. We explore spirituality and the human mind, ecology and culture. Most episodes are recorded with a live audience. You can join our live events and submit questions to your favorite guests. Check out our upcoming schedule at banyan.com. Since 1970, Banyan Books has been a rich oasis at the crossroads of wisdom and philosophy, offering resources for humanity's evolving paths. We're a locally owned, independent bookstore in the heart of Vancouver's Kitsilano neighborhood. Visit us in person or shop online at banyan.com. Please subscribe, follow, like, and leave your reviews for the podcast. And now, enjoy. Hello, greetings everybody. Welcome to Branches of Wisdom, the Banyan Books podcast. I'm your host, Ross McKeachie, and really excited today to have a guest back that we had on 4 years ago when I first started hosting these events, Don José Ruiz. Now, before we begin our conversation with Don José, I just want to let everyone know that although we have people joining from around the world for these live streaming events, the physical location of Banyan Books and Sound is on the traditional and unceded territories of the Coast Salish peoples, including the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. Most of Banyan's events and podcasts are free. We welcome your donations to keep these programs accessible for all. Just click on the PayPal link in the show description below. Also, towards the end of our conversation today, we'll take questions from you, the live audience. So please go ahead and type those into the comments field on YouTube, and we'll get to as many as we can. Our guest today, Don José Ruiz, intertwines fresh revelations with age-old wisdom, shaping a life devoted to sharing the deep-rooted Toltec teachings. He's a best-selling author, speaker, and Nagual, a Toltec shaman, in the Eagle Knights lineage. José is the author of The Medicine Bag, The Wisdom of the Shamans, and Shamanic Power Animals. He is also the co-author of the New York Times bestseller, The Fifth Agreement, with his father, Don Miguel Ruiz, author of The Four Agreements. Today, Don José Ruiz is with Banyan Books in conversation about his new book, The Shaman's Path to Freedom, a Toltec wisdom book. According to Don José, this book is a radical invitation to break your mind's addiction to suffering, embrace unconditional love, and claim the personal freedom that is your birthright. And to help you do that, he's identified 10 key elements of personal freedom, which are laid out through the chapters of this book. And at the end of each chapter, Ruiz has included exercises to help you put these freedoms into practice in your own life. And if you'd like to learn more about today's honored guest, you can visit the website, miguelruiz.com. Okay, Banyan community, a very warm and exciting welcome to Don José Ruiz.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for having me. Very happy to be with everybody tonight.
Oh, it's so wonderful to have you back. Really good to see you. Thanks for coming. What a wonderful book. I read it and I'm really excited about it. One of the things you write about in the introduction, you say the following: the Toltec path focused on the ability of each of us to bring about our own awakening, thereby contributing to the awakening of others. It taught that it was only by each individual finding his or her own personal freedom that humanity could achieve lasting change on a larger scale. In other words, to change the world, we must change ourselves. I want to ask you, what happens when we try to change the world without having done the work to change ourselves first?
Well, there's two things. It's a disrespect for the world because maybe it didn't ask us to change it. And we think that we have this personal importance that we're the one savior, the savior for the world, but it's not true. Yes, we are a savior, but only to ourselves. And the moment that we save ourselves from ourselves, we can give what we have. Many people, they don't want to look into the mirror. So instead of taking their thirst away, they take the thirst of others, but they're sacrificing the love of their life. Because let's say one gives love, but it deprives themselves out of love.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Now, one of the things that's an important concept for us to understand in this book is the concept of domestication. Can you explain to our audience what that means?
Well, domestication is a training, it's education, it's the programming of the human mind. And in the Toltec tradition, like my father teaches, he says that we didn't choose where to be born, what gender to be, or what lands to be born. We just go be born and we're doing their best. So wherever we land and be born, that's where we're gonna get programmed. So let's say I got programmed in Mexico, and my program is not in Japan, in German, is in a different dream. And in this moment, that dream is an old dream. Like every country is an old dream. So for the new ones who are coming to life, they already have an education, a programming, a domestication going to happen. And everything goes automatically like this. And many people begin now believing the stories of their tradition is real, better than the other ones, because that's all they know. And it comes a moment in life when you see that all life is domesticated. And some are domesticated, with happiness, with kindness. Some people are domesticated with pain, suffering. And it's because the people are addicted to suffering in the world and even not realizing it, because it's more power to the word than to the feeling. So let's say we get domesticated by belief, but we feel something different inside of our body. Like we're going against our belief system to fit into the other dream. But of course, if we don't do what we're told, we get punished, and it's reward and punishment. So many people sacrifice their desires to create for reward and punishment, thinking they're doing good. And you know that we are living someone else's dream, someone else's path. It's time to get our own dream in our own path. And by undomesticating ourselves, because in the Toltec tradition, there's nothing to learn, only to unlearn, because Toltec means artist. So we're taking away what takes the inspiration away from us, the artists, and is to live life. That's why sometimes when we are suffering, we don't know nothing else but our dream. And this is why it's important to travel and physically with books, just to open that mind to perceive and witness without fighting. And in that moment, we can see things that we take personal, things that we react to, is because we are domesticated in our own belief system. And sometimes we don't give water to ourselves to take our thirst away. We give it to others. But yet again, the little ones will begin seeing us sacrificing. That's the important thing. When you find your freedom, the little ones will be watching that. And when they see you walking your path, they will inspire for them to walk their path as well.
You mentioned a minute ago when you were speaking this addiction to suffering. Now, in the book, you say this is the current state of most human minds on the planet. I don't know if most people would necessarily understand that there's an addiction to their pain. There's an addiction to their suffering and unhappiness. Can you explain that a little bit?
Well, when we not living our life that we want to live, sometimes we begin complaining, gossiping. Is because we are in denial, and the poison begins leaking in our gossip, in our jealousy and envy, and that begins one clapping the wings of the other one. And this is the way that we've been living for a long time. So when we no longer take ourselves personal, when we don't react to certain things anymore, then we begin having a moment of breathing fresh air, not pretending that we're, not breathing fresh air or breathing other things, heaviness, but we begin having a moment of honesty with ourselves. In that moment of honesty, we can say, okay, what kind of messenger am I? Do I like the message that I'm giving? Or I don't like the message that I'm giving? So if I don't like the message that I'm giving and I'm in denial, but it's because of this, because of that, it's because of that. It's addiction of suffering, waiting for something to happen in life to get myself fixed, or looking for the, the television or the gossip magazines to see, well, what these artists do, what these people do. It's something out focus of ourselves. But the moment that we begin seeing our domestication, our action reactions, our way of thinking, we get to do what we Toltec call an out-of-body experience. And of course, we don't get out of our body. We're not witnessing, like dreaming, we get out of our body and see ourselves sleeping. No, that has nothing to do with it. It's about witnessing our thinking mind. And when we begin witnessing our thinking mind, we can see if we're addicted to suffering or not, because it's about what we're feeding to the body. So this answer is the one that anybody can give to themselves, and only them. Like, I can only give that answer to myself if I'm addicted to suffering, yes or not. And the truth is that I'm in recovery of the addiction of suffering.
Thank you. You tell us also that the path of a Nagual, a Toltec shaman, is characterized by two key elements: personal freedom and unconditional love. This must be important for our audience to understand. So I'm wondering if we can speak about each of those a little bit.
Yes, it's something that my father teaches us, and Doña Barbara as well. They say, in order to know what love is, first we have to be aware of what love is not. And in that moment, we can totally see what love is in our life. And in that moment, when we begin having that epiphany and awareness, we can begin having a path to our self-unconditional love. Into whom we're going to love unconditional? Ourselves. And this is when we totally forgive ourselves for everything that we experience, that we judge ourselves, for everything that we stay stuck in the past, where we hurt ourselves. Because I remember when I got stuck in the past, I was in this world of judgment of Jose and things that happen and things like that, until the moment that I say, if I truly forgive myself, I will stop punishing myself with this story. And then is when I realized that I was addicted to suffering with my own stories. And this is something interesting that happened. When a loved one came with a fresh wounded heart, a heartbreak, he just separated from somebody. And I remember like 14 years ago saying, I know that one very well. But instead of listening to that person, what did I begin doing? Regurgitating my pain of relationships. And I begin speaking it differently according to how whoever I was speaking to in whatever situation. And then is when I said, I'm getting my painful experiences to reopen those wounds and not keeping them closed because of that addiction of suffering. Because let's say if I want to move forward, but I have all this belief of self-judgment, I say, I cannot move forward. I cannot move forward. So what would I say to myself to convince myself to let go of that belief? Is because that is not unconditional love. That is conditional love. And the moment that you accept the way you are, yes, I did this, yes, I did that, I did this, I did that, and I accept it. But I don't want to do it anymore. In that moment, you're not changing for anybody else. Because when we change ourselves for somebody else, we're not really doing it. We're sacrificing. We're putting our chin down and looking down and says yes, because out of guilt and shame. But when you have the epiphany that you still have life and that love has to come out of you, then you begin loving everybody without conditions. And this is the truth respect for the world. And the thing it is that, like they say in the myth world, demons will only listen to what demons want to hear. If the demons don't listen to what they want to hear, they will react, they will feel threatened, they will attack. But just imagine, you find peace within you, that you have respect for everybody because you have that unconditional love. And one thing too, one day we will wake up and we will not be here anymore. And what I mean wake up is that we transcend from the body. And this gives me the epiphany that I can heal. Why? Because before I leave this body, I'm going to leave situations that don't serve me.
So, okay, we were talking about unconditional love, but there's also this concept of personal freedom. How does personal freedom relate to unconditional love? And how do you define personal freedom in the Toltec tradition?
Well, let's say the rose is meant to grow a bud and open, and that is personal freedom. So our human body is meant to love, is meant to express, is meant to laugh, is meant to cry, is meant to have joy. But with stories that we tell ourselves in the addiction of suffering, we don't let that happen. And we always have excuses. Why not? Especially when things happen. But the moment that you have that epiphany of self-respect, knowing that the world's not going to respect you if you don't respect yourself, and then you see, the next generations behind you, and also you see the potential that you have to enjoy this life. Then let's say you have an idea. Like, let's say when 20 something years ago, I wanted to talk in stage with my father. I wanted to talk wherever he went. But I get this judgment comments that I have to go to public speaking and doing all these things that that it was really cutting my wings. But what I had, it was my passion. It was the love that I had for expression in my own joy. I wasn't wanting to be the perfect public speaker, in the world. I just wanted to let my voice out. So if I didn't do that in that young age of just letting my voice out, no matter, the world wouldn't cultivate me. Time wouldn't cultivate me. I would have not marinated as a vegetable. The time marinated me so I can continue doing. And this is what we do. The more we do something that we love to do, the more we get better at that, because we continue to grow and grow and grow. And if I listen to all these judgments, I will not be here speaking. And I let myself have personal freedom. So there's so many things to do in life that we deny ourselves from having.
I want to clarify, because I think there's some nuance here too. There's a version of personal freedom that is maybe common in our sort of individualistic way of life here in the modern Western world, which is a very different personal freedom than the kind you're talking about. Can you account for that difference a little bit? Can you help us understand that?
Well, it's the personal freedom that, like the sun doesn't care to shine, it will shine. And there's the personal freedom to be accepted in the school, in the universities, or in the workplace, to fit in, so it be the popular person, so it can win a society. But the moment that you do that, you have fake friends, fake relationships. It's all plastic. But when you are your true free self, where you don't judge yourself, but you're always working for the best version of yourself, that working in yourself gives a gift for your loved ones. And at the same time, it gives you the freedom to be your authentic self. And this is when a lot of people have a problem to be their authentic self. They want to be the reflection, what the mirror is presenting. That's why it's hard to heal or love, because there's so many rules to be. But just imagine if there's no languages, if we're just like the birds, we begin singing because we just want to, because we have the freedom for that. But the other freedom will say, oh, wait a minute, you cannot whistle just yet. You have to be in tone, because what would those people think in that room about you? And we begin having an inner judge to see what's freedom to us. But really, freedom is to listen to the vibration of your life, knowing that you are alive, that you are a flame. And that expression of that freedom that you permit yourself, let's say, one is afraid to go outside and walk in the sidewalk in 5 a.m. But one day it wakes up early and it decides to, okay, I'm gonna give myself the freedom to walk. I wanted to give, for 20 years being wanted to do that. But all these excuses, things that happen, but finally one begins to break the ice, get out of the house and begin walking at 5 a.m. Yes, it may be silly, like, okay, walking 5 a.m, but okay, let's say about traveling. Let's say about, creating a book that you want to create, or sing a song, or, ask somebody out for, things that make our body shake and nervous, that we imprison ourselves to not create. But the moment that we begin feeling that identification of that emotion that is stopping us to be free, in that moment, we give ourselves that permission. And that is when we know that we are on our path. And the path is the path of our life. That is not really a sidewalk, it's not really a journey. It's just what we do when we meditate. And what do? We go inward. And we begin going inward, that we begin now having a communication with energy, because this container is what trapped this energy. So it's about controlling our emotions. It's not about the words getting the best of us. It's about the words working for us. Because many people in the world think that the words are the real thing. And it's only been like 5,000 years of languages of the word. Could that be the real thing? What is the real thing for me? Is that energy that I have inside of me that coordinates like a orchestra up and down. But that energy is what it will be put into my word and my stories that I say to myself and others. That's why it comes an independence from myself. When I say, may life protect me from myself, here I go. And this is the honesty that I live with the mirror. So when you live in honesty, that in some traditions they call the witness, when you have that witness that is yourself, you begin now being your own teacher and apprentice, because you find your own guide. And that is the Nagual energy, that is moving matter, that is the tonal.
The Nagual energy is like the life force energy or the prana or chi, right?
Yes, exactly.
In the chapter, now, one thing I just want our audience to understand, this book has 10 different freedoms that are laid out by Don Jose, and each one has a chapter. And at the end of each chapter, there are these great exercises. In the chapter, The Freedom to See, you wrote the following. First, you told the story about ending up blind and being in the hospital. And I'm just going to quote something that you wrote here. You wrote that, I only saw the ways in which other people were hurting me or keeping me down, and was blind to the ways in which they were supporting and uplifting me. I was convinced that if I allowed myself to realize how other people were supporting me, I would no longer be able to claim the role of victim. So I made sure that I never let myself see. That really resonates with my own experience of shutting out the reality of how much others help me. I'm wondering if you can speak more to this, please, Jose, because as you also say, you know, you're not alone in this. I think a lot of people struggle with that.
Yes, and when I was struggling with that and having my own past memories that affect me, at one point in life, I was walking in a nature, in a little forest, and there was a cascade, and I just sat there for 2 hours. But in those 2 hours, most of the time in those 2 hours, I was complaining what the river took away, and I began facing the other side of the river, what life took away, and all those things create stories of my past, of judgment, victimization, things that paralyzed me. That all of a sudden I felt like a ghost because someone came to visit me, and it was one of my cousins, and we began talking. And the moment that I was there, it was like something came out of me, and it was the voice of complaining that it was the living ghost, because what I was doing was hunting the cascade waterfall. And how did I do that? Because I was stuck energy of things that I have lived by. Because when my cousin came in, I began talking, regurgitating. I was beginning talking about my past and things, and I was not moving. I was just feeding that energy. It came a moment that I begin seeing now clearly. I don't want to be a ghost anymore and hunt this place. I don't want to resurrect old stories anymore that I close and open, because I'm afraid of the unknown. And that was it. What is it out there beyond my island of safety and a pain that I'm used to, in the victimization that I'm used to? And the answer was peace, surrender. And when I make peace and surrender, I begin hearing my ghosts talking until I got bored of it. Because, when you hang with some people that just do negativity, you don't want to hang with them because you get anxiety, you get this sensation that your body doesn't like it. So I begin now listening to my physical body, and I begin stop hunting my temple that was my mind. And now that I begin seeing that I wasn't impeccable with my word, because I was using the word and the stories that create the words to hurt myself, I noticed that I was like Huitzilopochtli. And Huitzilopochtli, in my tradition, is the god of war. And I find it very interesting that still they praise the god of war in the country. And I was praising the God of war when I was a ghost. And I was in war against myself, against the injustice that was done to me, but I wasn't doing justice to my own physical body. I was doing more war because I trapped the hummingbird, and the hummingbird is the messenger. So I got the messenger that I am the hummingbird and began using my own message against myself because I believe in the God of war. And I was a war against myself and I guess a war against everybody else. And it took epiphany, knowing that I have one key in life, and it's a skeleton key. And that skeleton key, because of the experience that I passed, there's only one truth that I know, really, is life and death. So now having that awareness of life and death, I don't give more attention to be a ghost anymore because I want to live. People say that hell and heaven is when after we die. No, it's here. And it's based on our belief system in the words that we create. Words create stories. And that's why I say earlier that there's so many domestications in this world. There's billions of domestications from different worlds. And it's the war of the gods, the war of the belief system. And that corrupts every tradition. The families, the schools, the workplace, the countries, the planet, because it's an illusion infecting the planet Earth. It comes a moment that I realized that this body is the planet Earth. Now, what illusions out there am I going to fall? And I had a ghost in all my life that was in relationship when it's heartbreak. And I used the heartbreak to hurt myself. And this past end of my 13-year marriage that we just ended 2 years ago, in that moment, I realized that the old ghost wanted to use love to hurt itself. But this time was different because I freed myself to love, to feel, to see, and to have respect for the partner that I was with, that has the freedom to do whatever they want. It's not my possession. And I could only get to that level because I give that freedom to myself. Freedom to love, to feel, to see, to create. And what are we creating? The rest of our lives. Imagine that power. That is the true resurrection for me. To wake up with a better version of ourselves. Sometimes people say, I wish I knew now what I knew now. I wish I knew it when I was like 13 or 15, but it's not possible. But we know it now. And when we don't believe in age, the candle is lit. And that lit candle is the messenger of the sun that is the life force. Now is the life force playing with whatever program is in my brain, but I'm choosing not to be in war, in conflict with anything or anybody because I have respect for the addiction of suffering because it used to get me good. And when I disrespected it, it made me blind. But when I respect my own addiction of suffering, it's the clarity, it's the clearness, it's the epiphany, it's the enlightenment. Because we're not going to stop our body from feeling anxiety, depression, all of that. The body's going to feel what it's going to feel. This is when our powerful mind will wake up like the angel that it is to be at service to the love of our life. That is our planet. Now we walk in life where there's hundreds of spiritual beliefs, religions, atheists, everything exists in this world. We go there as a clean mirror with respect.
You talked there about, serving the love of your life, which is yourself. You have this chapter, the freedom to serve. That's one of the freedoms. And at the end of that chapter, you give an exercise titled Simple Acts of Service, where you invite us to conduct simple acts of service throughout our day. And you list some really good examples of easy things we can do. Firstly, I just want to ask, what is the power in these simple acts of service? Aside from benefiting the other, how do they benefit the one performing them?
Gratitude, respect, and the able to cook in a magical kitchen. And the ingredients, it is the words, the vibration, and the gift that we give. And sometimes people do not know what we're giving is the vibration of our presence. That's why sometimes going to a coffee shop where some people are mean to the baristas, But all of a sudden you bring that presence, that tranquility with no story at all. Because the authentic message is about to be given to remind somebody else to not believe that story. So let's say the fallen angel, the punishment was to roam the earth for eternity, but it wasn't a curse in the myth. As a metaphor, it's not a curse. It's a service. Let's say that I wish I could speak to a drug addict at the age of 15, 16, 17, 18, that it was me, but I cannot speak to me because I'm gone, but I was living in that moment. So now I can speak to somebody in that world, in a teenage world that is looking for help, and I already went through it, so I can talk to that part of me. And when I communicate to that part of me in somebody else's body who's going through that path that I went to, it's like giving myself love from a different body to another body, or giving a little light, knowing that whatever suffering we went is not in vain. So whatever we prepare ourselves in is a mastery. We're masters of whatever we prepare ourselves to be the better version of ourselves now. When we are out in life, we're just doing our best. And by just being our authentic self, we have no idea of the vibration that we bring to certain places. And sometimes you see a person, oh my God, this person has this energy, this beautiful power energy. It's so powerful, but it's not special powers that is better than anybody else. No, it has that love, that respect, that presence. And this is what we're here for, to have that presence inside of our life. Have you ever seen a puppy just look out of the window when there's nature, and their eyes just get, just drinking into the light? No story at all, just enjoying. Just exactly like when we go into the ocean, or when we with our partners that we love so much. There's just this part of us that just wants to merge. And when we have that beautiful act of service, it's because we love with no expectations at all. And the way that we live our life is the greatest service that we can give to life. Why? Because we're reminding everybody to be free. And many people, it's scary to find that freedom. Many people who have domesticated with fear, and they're hard to leave their cage even if it's open, because they think they're going to get in trouble. They feel all these things. But there's a moment that we have to embrace the body, the uncomfortableness, to get comfortable in it. And this is when we begin the ultimate service. Now, let's say we write a poem because we went through something. And when we write the poem, it's something healing for us, but we never know who's going to read it, who's going to get their heart touch. And this is the beautiful thing about the time that we live now, because we cannot lie to ourselves. We're in a moment of science, psychology, and spirituality coming together. There is no room for fanatism, for placebo effect. It's just the main truth that we have. And what is that truth? The experience that we have, and how we will break free or have broken free from them. And then we cultivate this medicine and we give it to others without even knowing we're giving it to others, because, yet again, I repeat, it's a presence. Like sometimes we feel safe with certain people because of their presence.
Thank you. I'm really excited because we've got some nice questions coming in from the audience here. Is it okay if we tend to some of those?
Yes, of course.
Okay, great. You mentioned dealing with heartbreak in your own life a moment ago, and there's a question here from Jan that says, can Don Jose speak about healing from heartbreak?
Yes. One important thing to know is that you are the love of your life. And sometimes we have this, desire to share life with somebody. But if that somebody doesn't want to share life with us, they move on. If we truly love them, we will set them free, wouldn't we? We want them to be happy. We don't want them in our golden cage. We want them to be happy. And by doing that act of love, unconditional love, we will not hurt ourselves with it, because this is the most important thing. And if the relationship didn't end, that it means that it would have never begun. So I say, instead of being a ghost and see what the river took away, see the beautiful things. And sometimes I had two relationships that I grew, but in that moment, I wasn't enjoying it because I couldn't see, because I still had my ghost. But now, with this beautiful sensation that I can feel my body and not hurt myself with heartbreak, that is the ultimate gift. And that is when I really discovered there's a marriage. To death do us part. And I say that to myself, to death do us part, Jose. And this is the important thing. Like my father and says, why do I want to be with somebody who doesn't want to be with me? In that moment, you can totally find respect for yourself and respect for the other person. And instead of being in ghost town, see what the river took away or life took away, you go to the unknown again. But you are not afraid for your heart to be broken, because the one that really broke our heart, it wasn't another person. It was ourselves. Now, this is the introduction for the addiction of suffering that was for me. Because in that moment, I begin singing the songs, the sad songs. I begin getting, why is everybody leave me? Why am I, less than? In that moment, I wasn't appreciate the real love that I have. So it's a gift when someone leaves. Why? Because it's like a fire. And like the wise humans say, when the fire comes into a forest, it will bring new life, that if it wasn't for that fire, it would not be born. And I tell you, we get closer to our sacred heart. And the beautiful thing is, in this moment of heartbreak, how are you going to support yourself? How would you like to be supported by another person? Well, guess what? That person has arrived, and it is you. And from now, I remember when I go with my friends and loved ones, I made it my will of strength to not complain, to not gossip, to not put ill words of my mouth. In that moment, I think about it and I catch it in that moment. Because when I created the most suffering in life for me, it was when I was in heartbreak. That's why I say, when we begin now finding the honesty that a dream ended, we can say thank you for it. And this is what we did, our ancestors did. When a dream ended, they made this beautiful dance, this fire, these cleansings. And then tomorrow, it will be a new day. Thank you for your question.
Thank you. And thanks, yes, Jan, for the question. There's one here from Gordon that says, Don Ruiz, I have a deep, sincere desire to become a shaman, but where do I start?
The beautiful thing, it is to be honest. Why you want to be shaman? What does it mean to be shaman? Because honestly, shaman is just another word. When you want your physical body to feel the freedom, is when your mind will begin being loyal to your physical body. So the thing is to unlearn what takes your inspiration away and follow your light, which means follow your intent. And with that intent, you begin creating a world for you. And I say, forget about names. It's about the expression of being that living flame. And the moment that you begin having that freedom to feel, to be, but most importantly, to have the strength to look in the mirror saying, I am home. And that for me, it was the training of a shaman, Nagual, is to know that that energy that I am is home. And I begin witnessing my own thoughts and mind, because in this moment, I will make an act of power that I will use the word, not against me, but to create what's in my heart. And this is the most beautiful thing of a shaman. It creates medicine. And in the hospital, there's so many different kinds of doctors. You don't have only one kind of doctor. So the medicine that you find is the medicine that you use to heal yourself. And then practice makes master. Thank you for your question, Gordon.
Thank you. There's another question. I think we have time for one or two more. There's one here from Brenda that says, is there negative or evil energy outside of ourselves working towards breaking down the collective good or positive in the universe or mankind?
It's a negative energy, but it doesn't come from spiritual energy or anything like that. It comes from cruel, unkind human beings that have been wounded, and they wound the people in life as well. So there's always a negative and positive in the world. And this is what makes the energy move. If it wasn't for negative people, the people who have the freedom and light to make positive wouldn't get inspired for that never happen again. So there's always a dance. And in every generation, it will change. Just like, let's say we get to the promised land, everything is beautiful. And then history will forget how it felt like, that the anger will begin happening, the resentment will begin happening, the jealousy will begin happening, and then the wanting to control the rest of humanity will begin again, and the unbalance will happen again. And it's all because of the strange illusions that we believe in, that is superstition. And in that superstition, it began into religious, and then religious began into the governments and all this stuff that is not new, it's old, it's 2,000 years old, that they get any story to corrupt, and that is a negative world. So right now you can see in this world, there's a lot of negativity happening, and it's always been happening, but now we have awareness of what's happening. The information goes faster, that inspires one person. If something happens in the Middle East or in Asia or in Americas, one can find out right away, and things are moving along. The important thing it is to keep your mind clean, your acts clean, your consciousness clean, because there will always be, let's say, in little metaphors, the little mosquito wanted to talk to the spider to say, stop making spider webs. Stop making spider webs. Why should I stop making spider webs? The spider says, it's because, the rest of my people, the mosquitoes, they're falling into your spider web, and I want them to stop. And he goes, I'm a spider and I will do this. It's better for you to train your mosquitoes to not fall into my spider web. And this is exactly what's happening when we see the negativity in the world. Let's say if we see this conflict happening right now, there's kids who are 10, 15, teenagers right now who sees what's happening, that in their mind, they will get some inspiration, that they will begin working in their life, that in 20, 40, 50 years, their work that they saw will heal planet. And this is what's happening all around. So the unkindness comes from the unaware and goes back to addiction of suffering. Because let's say for a person to use substance, before it had to happen something in their life that they want to shut down, before they decided to numb themselves. And when one numbs themselves, the hatred, the cruelty just gets bigger, because one doesn't see what they're doing. That's why I say it takes strength and some willpower to see what you're doing. And if you like what you're doing, continue. But if you don't like it, you change it. That's why the wise humans say that heaven and hell is not after we die, it's in this planet and how we decide to live.
I love that. It's so much more empowering and true that heaven and hell are our state of mind right now, isn't it?
Yes. And it's easy to manipulate when people have anger and hate, and one presents that to them by the power of suggestion. They don't see what's it coming from. They just react like a drunk person. One day he wakes up, what did I do? And has all this guilt and shame that he has to numb himself before he sees what he has done. That's why I say it takes strength to unlearn this kind. And the thing is that do not feel guilty. This cruelty of human world living, it was for thousands of generations before we were born. And somehow they make us feel like it's our fault, that we are paying for a karma of a life that we lived hundreds of years ago. That is a lie.
That's a relief.
Yes. Because at that moment we let the story go. And we recreate what? Our story. By making a new agreement with ourselves. How we want to live, like my brother says, the rest of our life.
I think we've got time for one more question here. Thanks so much, Don Jose. I just want to remind everyone we've been speaking to the wonderful Don Jose Ruiz, and his new book is The Shaman's Path to Freedom, a Toltec wisdom book. Of course, you can get it at banyan.com. And thanks everyone for all of your wonderful questions. We've got time for one more here. It's from Farah, and it says, is it possible to practice unconditional love with everyone we encounter and not get hurt?
Well, this is the thing. The body will feel. The body will feel. Will feel the conflict, will feel the uncomfortableness. But it is possible to share, to get comfortable in the uncomfortableness. Like, let's say, I sometimes hang with negative people because they're still alive and they're in my life. They're sometimes friends or family, you know. They believe in certain politics or something like that. And, you know, they like to debate. So, but they're still alive. So I go and visit them. But I do this imagination in my mind. I imagine that I have an oxygen tank and have all this scuba gear, and I'm going into deep waters. So I have oxygen, and I'm enjoying everybody until topics begin happening, until conversations that is waste of time for me begin happening, debating begins happening, and that's when I notice that my oxygen tank is getting low. It's time to go. But our presence and peace will bring that vibration wherever we go, because it's the presence that have.
Don Jose, before we go, do you have any parting words for us, or is there anything you want to let our audience know about that you're working on these days?
Yes, one thing I want to share, you know, that the freedom for part of our life, it's simple. It's just a decision. The thing is that we make it complicated because we don't want to have a personal freedom for ourselves because we don't know any better. We just know what we know. But the moment that we give ourselves that permission, it will not be complicated because it will be simple. And this is something that I've been working on these few months. My publisher Hierophant got this book of my good friend the Rattlesnake that I did with my ex-partner Tammy Hutman, and we're doing expanding pages. So for me, I had to go back to my life, redoing my life again, going from a different point of view. So I'm really doing an autopsy of my life in this new book that is coming. It's going to be released in January because we have a lot of expansion to be put in, a lot of experiences to be put in, but it's a journey of how I got to where I am at now and all my life journeys. So I'm very excited about sharing this new work with everybody. But always remember, the moment that you realize that you want to shine and be free, knowing that it's a decision and it's possible. You wake up with a new point of view, and that also that you don't want to be anymore, it's gone. It's not there because you don't believe in it. What is life is what you believe in, and that is the faith. So just imagine when you want to change your life to personal freedom and live that path, it's because you have faith in you. You can have faith in a swami, in a shaman, in another human that is not you. But imagine having faith in yourself, knowing that you're there for you, that you're in service with the love of your life. And that for me is the image of Tonantzin, or some call him the Virgin of Guadalupe. This physical body is her physical body. Doesn't matter if I'm male, it's the female body of the earth, of planet Earth. Now, the conscious energy that is merged with the mind, now spirit and mind are lifting the body up. And that is the image of serving Divine Mother. And serving Divine Mother is serving the planet, but we cannot serve the planet unless we serve ourselves. So I welcome everybody to your own personal path to freedom. Thank you for your time and listening.
Thank you so much. So great to have you here. Thanks for joining us for Branches of Wisdom, a podcast of Banyan Books and Sound, Canada's spiritual and healing resource since 1970. Our podcast producer is Jacob Steele. The show is edited by Abdo Habani. Watch all our conversations on YouTube by searching for Banyan Books, or listen on your favorite podcast platform. Please subscribe, follow, like, and leave your reviews and comments. We love to hear from you. For all our live events, books, and more, visit us at banyan.com.